Rita Hunt, an officer with the Washington, D.C. police force. You walk the beat down on Capitol Hill. If you had your druthers, would you be in a squad car or walking the beat, literally, every day?
I would definitely be walking.
Why?
You get to know the community. Everyone tells me I know everyone. When I'm walking, someone's always throwing their hand up at me. Some of them address me by my first name. So I do like walking. You come on, you get a better perspective of what's going on in the neighborhood, the people who are messing up in the neighborhood. You can get closer to the people, find out what's going on.
How long have you been doing that?
Been walking for about 6 years now.
This concept can be summarized generally as community policing, and also to talk about that is Donald Cahill. He's the National Legislative Chairman for the Fraternal Order of the Police. Community policing, can you give us a quick definition of that?
Well, community policing is actually the police and the community working together to reduce the crime rate or actually to do away with crime in the neighborhood or to help solve crime, but all working together.
John Eck is the Associate Director for Research for the Police Executive Research Forum. John Eck, is this an old idea with a new name?
Partially yes, partially no. A lot of the ideas that we now talk about as community policing come from old concepts of policing, but it has a different twist to it today. It's a lot more systematic. It builds a lot more on social science research, which is only in the police area coming to the fore in the last 20 years. So it's both, old and new.
Our phone lines are open for the next hour, where we'll be discussing the notion of community policing, exactly what it is and how it's working. As we touch some of the issues in the next several minutes, you might have some thoughts about the matter you'd like to address to one of our guests. You can begin dialing now using the phone numbers that appear on the bottom of your screen, and we'll go to the phones in just a minute. We're fortunate to have a practitioner, a think tank type, and a union man or a representative of a large category of police officers. And out of that, we ought to get a sense of exactly what community policing is. And back to you, Officer Hunt. When you decided to become a police officer, did you have an idea about what you do every day that did not include walking a beat?
My basic idea was really to help people. A lot of people say, you know, everyone says that, that's why you're here. It really was getting back to helping people. And yeah, I had that idea. Is there any
early reports about how effective community policing is? Donald Cahill.
Bruce, it takes a while for the results to come in. This is not something that you get the results back overnight. As a matter of fact, when you just start the program and get the citizens involved and get the officers involved and the mid-level managers involved, it tends to spark a lot of extra work for a lot of people. And it's a long time before the results start coming in, because this is not going to be something that can be worked overnight.
John Eck, what's the history of this idea?
Well, there's several histories. One, I think, the most important history starts in 1969 with an article by a gentleman named Herman Goldstein from the University of Wisconsin Law School. And his idea was that police, like many public bureaucracies, have gotten away from the idea of what their purposes, what their goals are, and have focused too much attention on procedures and equipment and internal operating matters, and that really what the police should do is focus on effectiveness, on what the end result of policing is, instead of the means for getting there. And from this, he came to the idea that really what the public expects of the police, what they call the police for, what they pay the police for, is to handle problems. And he really didn't define problems precisely, but he gave a lot of examples, and they varied from bicycle thefts to terrorism incidents. We think of them now a lot of times as crime patterns, but a lot of times the patterns, the problems that police are called in to handle don't have people calling in a lot. They may be too fearful. Gang-related violence and drugs today are good examples of that. Sometimes people just don't think the police are the appropriate ones to handle it. For example, an abandoned house used by some homeless people. There's a major nuisance in an area. The public is upset about it, but they don't know what to do. And these are problems which police are very often confront. Police are probably the lead organization in a municipality. They're 24 hours. No other agency is around 24 hours as a full-service agency. And in that respect, being recognizing the diverse nature of citizens' interest in what the police do, instead of just focusing on crime as if crime were a separate entity, is to look at the totality of what the public wants for the police and to try and address it in that way.
Donald Cahill, what do policemen generally think about this?
Well, Bruce, to start with, they're taken aback. The majority of policemen that are not involved in it right from the first day they come on the job still have the old picture in their mind of what it was like 20, 25 years ago.
Which was what?
Which was a cop walking a beat, the boss telling him what to do, how to do it, and him going out and doing it. But in actuality, once the officers get involved in this with the proper supervisors, and I have to emphasize the proper supervisors with the right attitude, they buy it because they see it working. It has its problems for them because, as I'm sure Rita will be able to tell you, these officers become very popular on the street.
Well, I do want to ask Rita about that, Rita Hunt, because you were nodding your head as Donald Cahill was talking, but quickly, is community policing more than just getting out of the squad car?
Much more than getting out of the squad car and saying hello to your neighbors.
Such as?
It's being able to understand their problem and find a way to get the problem taken care of.
All right, Officer Hunt, you were nodding your head, especially when Donald Cahill was saying as long as the right supervisor's in charge. What does that mean?
Yes, as long as you have the right backing. The majority, in my opinion, the majority of management on this police department are from 20 years ago, or anywhere from 15 to 20 years. They know management. They I guess you could say, go out to the meetings when I've been to meetings with officials where they ask, we want to talk to the beat officer. What does he have to say? And
a
they
community
know.
meeting. You mean.
Exactly. They want to know. The scout car officer knows exactly what goes on in his beat area. Not the official could look at crime stats and all, but it's got to get down to a more personal basis.
All right, you have been with the police force since 1981,
Yes.
and you've been a foot patrol officer for 6 years. What were you doing before 6 years ago?
Before that, I used to ride in different scout car areas. I was never in the same scout. I was what they called an assigned patrol officer.
What's your personal preference between the two?
For beat.
All right. Give us an idea before we go to the phones and hear a little bit more about this issue. Your personal experience with what it means to be out there and involved in the community. For example, do you attend community meetings?
Yes, I do.
You do that on your own time or on police time?
On police time.
Are you? What is your?
I won't say that I haven't attended one on my own time, but the majority of them I've been able to arrange my schedule. I do have good backing as far as supervisors, because they can see it working.
So if a meeting goes late, say 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, and you're expected to be at work the next morning, do you get a little slack from your supervisor?
Yes.
Is that the point?
Yes,
So
but from talking to other officers who have tried to get involved in it, they do not.
Have you ever heard the term lollipop?
No, I haven't.
Have you ever heard the term lollipop?
I'm afraid I haven't, Bruce.
Well, I was just looking through this publication, which you might be familiar with. It's called Community Policing, A Contemporary Perspective.
Yeah.
And some of the criticisms of community policing is that it's grin and wave cops. That's all they do. They're lollicops. They hand out lollipops, or, you know, their goal is to be mere friends of the community and nothing else. Is that a fair criticism, John Eck?
I think one of the problems we have with reform movements in policing is that some good ideas come forth, and some of the initial efforts are very conscientious efforts, but very often following on them are what I would call sort of a knee-jerk reaction to it, and a superficial reaction. And what happens then is that officers are then put on the street, asked to do certain things without any kind of backing, without the proper training, without the management thinking through the entire process. And in that kind of situation, in the context we're talking about, what would happen is officers are essentially told to be nice to people, but not much else. And that is not going to get much done. Just being nice is nice, but that's it.
All right, the ultimate question, I suppose, before we go to the phones, and that is, Donald Cahill, does this approach, community policing, lower crime?
I say it does, and I base that on what I've observed as a police officer myself.
And you are an active duty police officer?
Yes, sir, I have for 19 years.
In what town?
In Prince William County, Virginia.
Rita Hunt, do you think it lowers crime?
I know it does.
Why do you know that?
We have a scout car beat area that, although I have to say it would be short term, but over the last 5 months, crime has reduced by giving the community back their little neighborhoods.
John
Letting
Eck?
them get involved.
John Eck, does it lower crime rates?
I think if one talks in a very small community context, and in context of a particular problem, one can say it does. In terms of a citywide, national effort, I don't think there's any evidence, and I think that would be highly unlikely.
Phone lines are open. We'll go to the phones straight away. The phone numbers appear on the bottom of your screen. If you're calling from the Eastern or the Central time zones, use area code 202-628-2525. If you're calling from the Mountain or the Pacific time zones, 202-783-2727. And quickly, John Eck, what is the Police Executive Research Forum?
We're a membership organization of police chiefs and sheriffs from larger agencies around the country, and some in Canada as well. We sponsor research on police operations. We, working with Don Cahill and others, do lobbying for police issues. We do technical assistance and training and that type of thing.
How is it funded?
We're funded through a variety of grants from private foundations, from grants for research from the Justice Department and other contracts.
Donald Cahill, the Fraternal Order of Police.
Yes, sir. I was just about 75 years old, representing 213,000 police officers throughout the United States at this time.
And Officer Hunt, I think we know what the police force is, so we'll jump ahead and go to the phones. Caller, where are you calling from?
Yeah, I'm calling from Washington, D.C.
All right.
Yeah, my question is for Rita Hunt, and I would like to ask what she feels that the upper level management in the police department, and also the how the D.C. government can do to help the police force. They do have to help the police force in order for the police to be effective.
All right, caller, are you a member of the police force?
No, I'm not.
All right, thank you. Rita Hunt.
Okay, as far as upper management is involved, they need to give the beat officer, the scout car officer that walks a foot beat, needs to give them more leadway in making their own decisions, have confidence in them, don't always have the officer worried about if he does not make the right decision, what's going to happen. Just give him a little leadway. As far as the other district government agencies, that is my biggest problem with community empowerment. We do not have a lot of assistance from the other agencies, such as Child Protective Services. I've been on scenes where we needed to take the kids, and it took us hours to get them out, and then they ended up not taking the kids. To me, that was this person telling me, you don't have the right to make that decision. And although I was the first officer on the scene, or I may have known more about this child and she or he may have needed to be taken out of that environment at the time. So if the D.C. government, other agencies would help us out, it may work.
You've used the term community empowerment. I guess that's short for Community Empowerment Policing Program.
Yes.
And is that the general name for community policing in the District of Columbia?
Yes.
And it goes by other names, does it not? John Eck, are there other, because we've got a national audience here, they might recognize other
Right.
names.
We counted 10 or 12 names at one point. Community policing, community-oriented policing, community-oriented problem-solving, neighborhood-oriented policing, problem-oriented policing. It's interesting, this point the caller brings up, and the point that Rita makes, is that in the cities where I've seen this work very effectively, not only have to have a police department that works extraordinarily well, you have to have a city government that works extraordinarily well. In places like San Diego and Tulsa, Newport News, Baltimore County, Maryland, you have officers who can call up an agency and get things done because the city government has for many years tried to work that way. In other cities we've worked in where city agencies have been fighting with each other, they're understaffed, it's very difficult, maybe impossible.
Let's go back to the phones. Arvada, Colorado. Go ahead, please.
Yes, good afternoon. How are you folks?
Fine, thank you.
I happened to stumble onto your program, and I thought I'd give you a jingle.
Well, great.
I was wondering, since 1975, I understand that the citizens of Washington, D.C. may not use firearms or are not allowed to own firearms for defense of their home, person, and property. We here in Colorado have what's known as the Homeowners Protection Act, or the media calls it the Make My Day Bill, which has proven to be effective. Crime in Colorado, where citizens can influence this, is going down. Therefore, I would like to ask the group of people there, why does the district deny the citizens their civil rights to own firearms?
Tell you what, caller, instead of turning this into a Second Amendment issue, do you think that this has anything to do with the effectiveness of community policing? Are you familiar with that concept?
Absolutely. We have a race here in Colorado right now that somewhat is continued because the one person is a member of the Fraternal Order of the Police, and the other guy is a member of the sheriff's organization, and the one supports gun control and the other one doesn't.
How about community policing?
The idea is that people should have a right.
Okay, thank you very much. Do you see a connection between what he's concerned about and the effectiveness of community policing?
I don't see that, but if we get into a discussion on it, it would lead us into those areas, so that's why I wouldn't.
Well, we've got a on-the-beat police officer, Rita Hunt. I mean, what do you think? Do you think there's a connection between the right to bear arms and the effectiveness of community policing?
No, I don't think so.
All right. We'll go to Prince William County, Virginia, which isn't too far away from here. Go ahead, please. You're on the air.
Yes, sir. I have a question for Officer Cahill.
Sure.
I live in Prince William County, and I've been here since 1967, and I went through the Chief Owens administration and that. And I hear you talking about that you're familiar with the foot beats and things like that as deterrent to crime. Now, the Prince William County is a large county. I'm also an officer in D.C., and I've walked foot beats. I've been there 19 years. But it seems like if you call for service in Prince William County, we really have a problem out here with manpower or whatever. And my question was, do they plan on doing something about manpower in the county?
All right, thank you.
I don't think that that's something that I could get into because that's more of an administrative decision. But what I do see in Prince William County is a building of the crime prevention programs that have worked tremendously, working with the Neighborhood Watch and Business Watch programs, and it's done a very good job at keeping the crime down there and reducing the crime that could really get out of hand. We still have a lot of major incidents happen, and we still have a lot of minor incidents happen, but without the community policing, without the crime prevention programs, we'd have a lot more serious problems.
John Eck, does community policing mean more police?
Not necessarily. In fact, in the cities where they're most effective, one sees that they've already been working very hard. And San Diego comes to mind as one of the larger cities within the top 10, has one of the fewest, if not the fewest, numbers of sworn officers per capita, per calls for service, per crime, very high crime rate. Yet they are one of the agencies that have gone directly into problem-oriented policing. They're very active in it and have no more problems at doing it than you'd expect in a lot of other agencies.
Miami, Florida is next. Go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to make a comment with regards to community policing. In Miami with the Metro-Dade Police Department, there is a team police unit which has been established within the high crime areas, which really have not paid any relative difference to the crime in those areas. And I don't foresee a decline in the crime rate as it is now with the team police, which is made or established to handle those crimes within specific communities where the crime is rampant.
All right. Thank you. Any takers?
I think I'd like to address that. One thing that we have to understand is that team policing is just one small segment of what it's all about. Team policing combined with crime prevention, combined with community resources, combined with working the neighborhoods is what's going to help. But that's not going to be done unless you have mid-level management and senior management working hand in hand on the project along with team policing.
John Eck?
Yes, I think the other thing to remember here is that the police are not, and maybe the smallest component in the whole crime equation. Not only do you have the police, you have prosecutors and courts, and even that, the criminal justice system is a small component. You also have our tax laws, the ways business manages themselves and protect themselves. You have welfare funding and a variety of other social service agencies out there. We don't know why crime takes place, and I think it would be preposterous to assume that the police alone or any component of the police working with another agency are going to have a dramatic impact on
Houston,
crime.
Texas, go ahead.
Yes. In Houston, the topic of community policing is in the air now with the new police chief, Elizabeth Watson. But the point I'd like to make is the community standing up for the rights of its citizens in relation to the illegal acts by police in those communities. In my case in particular, I was assaulted and falsely arrested by Houston police, and the community has rallied around me, provided me with leadership speakers on my behalf and lawyers and very local newspaper coverage and Pacifica radio coverage to stand up to the abuse of power by the police. And it has happened in other areas, including black neighborhoods and stuff like that.
All right, thank you. How does community policing respond to those kinds of issues? Anybody? John Eck?
Well, I think one has to recognize that police, being the only municipal agency that has the power to take a life, to enforce the law, is by its nature going to have run into these kind of conflicts. And I think any kind of policing, be it community policing or anything else, has to recognize that there's always going to be a real struggle to maintain control over their officers and at the same time provide effective policing. I think that any community that is strong and has organized itself is in a better position to work with the police, even if they disagree with how a particular police officer acted in a particular circumstance. A strong community like that can also rally around severe crime problems and work with the police.
Officer Hunt, you've been doing this now in this way for 6 years. You're more familiar with the neighborhood and so forth. Do you find that you're going easier on people than you might otherwise?
No, I don't at all. And I'd like to say in reference to the last two calls, my understanding of community policing, the bottom line is not always arresting someone. I would like to add that. It's directing these people to where they can get the help, getting the other government agencies to help you help them, so that arresting someone would be the last resort. Therefore, you're going to cut down on crime.
Give us an idea of what your schedule is today. I suppose it occurs to me as I sit here that part of the reason you're in this program tonight with us is to advance the notion of community policing. It's part of your job. You're on the clock now, I'd expect.
Yes, I am.
All right, so how did you start the day?
I started today by locating the current crimes for the last 2 weeks on my crime map. And I let the Scout Car beat leaders know, which are the sergeants in our program in the 1st District. I let them know where the crime is going on. I let the guys in roll call, guys and women in roll call, know that what type of crime they have on their beat. They can see it as they come and go in roll call in the morning and the afternoon. Most of the day I did that because I've been behind a little. I had a few meetings last week.
So you started what time today?
At 10 o'clock.
When will you finish today?
I'll finish at 10:30 tonight.
All right, so after this program you'll go back to...
I'll go back to working in one of our project areas, walking the footbeat.
Okay. Any other comments about that? Next call. Los Angeles, California. You're on the air.
I'm interested in the feelings of law enforcement officers who now seem to have to operate from a range of being community service persons, and then on the other hand turn around and perhaps have to execute some perpetrator who's committing some act that would endanger another person's life or the life of the officer. I just wonder how much of a conflict must exist within an officer who has to consider that. I'd be interested in their comment.
All right, we've got another officer here, Donald Cahill.
Well, sir, I'd like to point out that since I've been a police officer, I've never had to execute anybody.
Well, I think he probably means performing the enforcement.
As far as the enforcement, I personally have had no problems enforcing the law 5 minutes after helping somebody out. I think it's all the same thing. It's all part of the job. And I think as long as you know your job and you have it in your heart to help people, and you know what the end result is supposed to be, then that's all it takes.
Rita Hunt, you agree?
Yes, I agree. I don't think I have not had I've come across that a few times, having to do my job when this is a person I may know. They have to respect me as a police officer first.
All right, Baltimore, Maryland next. Go ahead.
Hey, how you doing?
Fine, thank you.
I got a question I'd like to address to Mr. Cahill. Do you own a handgun, sir?
Yes, I do.
That's great. I'm glad to hear that. Now, without being hypocritical, do you think that having a gun in your possession, even in, let's say, New York City or D.C., as long as you're a law-abiding citizen, isn't that your best form of protection? Because by the time you call 911, you could very well be dead.
Caller, do you have any comment or question about community policing?
Well, this goes along with it, you see. Now, you've got a cop walking through the neighborhood. That's great. It shows a high profile, and it's good for children to know that the police are their friends. But as far as being a deterrent with crime, I'm the kind of person that believes everybody should have a gun, and then that way the thugs, this subversive members of society, will know that if you come into my house, you could be dead.
All right, sir, thank you. Any takers?
I don't see it relating. I can only say that everybody's entitled to their own opinion.
All right. Anybody else? Daytona Beach, Florida.
Hi, I just want to make a comment that I support what Mr. Eck's saying. I am a full-time law enforcement officer working for a sheriff's office that just implemented community policing. And we've encountered quite a few problems, basically from the administration. And I was curious also to know whether, if any of the other two officers that are on the broadcast, if they've had any trouble from administration, political-wise.
Quickly, before you go, what do you call it in Daytona Beach, the program?
Just C-SPAN.
No, what I mean is, we've got here in Washington, it's called Community Empowerment. There's a program called CPOP, Community Patrol Officers Program in Brooklyn. What do they call it in Daytona Beach?
Just community policing.
Well, we were hoping for a little more interesting. All right, the two officers, Rita Hunt.
I'm sorry, I forgot his
He was
question.
wondering what problems you ran into with the administration of the program.
I can honestly say, even before community empowerment came about, I've been doing it, and I guess I've basically got good results, and I haven't had a real problem, not within the police department. Like I said, other officers have. I've ran into a few outside of the police department, other small political agencies around Capitol Hill, but not in the police department.
Well, you're in a unique situation, aren't you? Because there are so many competing police jurisdictions in or around your beat. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
You've got the Capitol Hill Police. From time to time, there's the Secret Service, the Executive Protection Service, the Metropolitan Park, or the National Park Service, that kind of thing.
Yes.
But for that, it's been okay.
Oh, yeah. I've had not a lot of problems, but I'd still like to emphasize a lot of other people have. I don't know if it's the different neighborhoods they've tried to go in and community police or what it is, but they have run into a lot of problems. I get together with other officers from other districts who have started this, and I learned so much in 1 week of training by just learning what the different techniques that they go with when they go out into their community. And of course, I hope they learn something from me. But they have had a lot more problems than I can honestly say I have.
Donald Cahill?
Well, I have to say, unfortunately, that our department, Prince William County, Virginia, does not have community-based programs, but they are probably one of the most active crime prevention departments, and as a result, the supervisors, the street supervisors, allow a lot of leeway for their officers to get involved, and with the blessings of the administration.
We've got less than half an hour left with our guests as we continue to talk about community policing, and the next call is from San Diego, California, where there is an ongoing program. Go ahead, please.
Yes, first a comment, and then I'd like to ask your guest a question. With the conservative movement now across the nation, and they want to lock all the prisoners up, give them maximum time, and the judges who are having to give this time, they're looking at hostile spectators in the court to make sure they give them the maximum. And the jails are so loaded that they have to release. In fact, here in San Diego, they're shifting from jail to jail just to keep trying to stay within the law. And I'm just wondering, with your guests, how do you expect to keep crime down when they're going through a revolving door, and you can't you have no place to put these people even when they commit crime?
Do you have any?
You have your killings in your jails, and we've had several police killed here in San Diego by prisoners, and we've had vice versa. And it's getting to the point where the judges don't know what to do with it. They don't have any places to put these people.
Caller, we understand from this discussion so far that San Diego does have a community-based policing program. Have you ever heard of it, been exposed to it? Are you familiar with it?
Yes, we have what they call we also have a commission that looks in on killings by the police officers. But that's about all that you read a little bit about it. But
have you read about the community-based policing?
Yes,
What's your impression of it?
I have really no opinion on it, except that I don't think really it's working. Because there's such animosity here in San Diego, us against them against us. The police are killing too many of our people, and you know how the argument goes on and on.
All right, thank you. Now, John Eck, you were the one who referred to the San Diego experiment. How does that jive with his comments?
Well, in a number of ways. One is I think that if one is concerned about jail overcrowding, prison overcrowding, one has to, I don't know of a state in the union which has extra space, one naturally has to go to something like this. There is no alternative. If it's, Rita mentioned, arresting someone is the last resort. And if you don't have any space to put them, it's got to be moved even further back. This community policing, problem-oriented policing, is not a panacea for making the police and the public hug each other. Certainly, police and the community need to get together to work closer together, to have a deep and abiding respect for each other. But to expect that in the course of several years in which this has been around, to solve all of our deep social ills, I think is a bit much. And San Diego police, the officers and supervisors and managers I've met are deeply troubled by these concerns and are working very hard at trying to resolve them. So in that respect, I think that what community policing, problem-oriented policing does is brings the officers into the community in a way in which they can meet people on a first-name basis to find out what the problems are and to separate, if you will, or differentiate between people who are law-abiding citizens who are trying to make a go of it and those who prey upon them. In that respect, I think that in the long run this has a great deal of benefit. But I don't see this kind of thing as resolving these concerns overnight.
Anybody else? Next call, Arlington, Virginia. Go ahead, please.
Yes, this is a question, I guess it would be directed more to Mr. Eck. I've done a great deal of research into Interpol, which is a private organization based in France, and basically what that has to do with the United States. Recently, the United States National Central Bureau set up a number of offices around the country to provide USNCB with information on citizens, individuals, this type of thing, which would then be routed out to France into Interpol's hands.
Tell you what, caller, it looks like you're going in a direction that is not too related to the subject this evening, and I wonder if you could put a different spin on it, if you even care.
No. My question is this. With the new offices that have been set up in all of these various cities around the country, I'm curious what sort of privacy-type issues this may bring up.
All right, thank you. Do you have any observation about that at all, John Eck?
Given that the whole thrust of this is to essentially personalize police, to be very concerned with a few number of people in particular circumstances and neighborhoods, I find that the whole international realm of it to be even less relevant than it has been in the past. Certainly things like terrorist problems and drug smuggling problems are things that are handled, but in proportion to the amount of policing that gets done, these things are trivial. Certainly we should be concerned about creation of data banks which are then exchanged without any kind of concern for privacy. But I think that what one sees with this is a very low-tech arrangement in which the officer, the expert, has these ideas in their heads. Rita, I'm sure, has lists of people in her head so she knows and knows, the circumstances in which they're good and the circumstances in which they're not so good. And we're not going to plug her into a national computer bank and download it into France.
Well, in that regard, Rita Hunt, you're the actual community-based police person. Maybe you can flesh out the notion of the ways that you know your beat. For example, how many people do you think you know by sight? I mean, not exact numbers, but as you walk down the street, give us a sense of how it is you know the community that you might not know were you still being transferred in a squad car from beat to beat throughout the city.
I know the ins and outs of the beat. I know the alley. I know where trash dumpsters usually are. I even know who goes to happy hour on some of the bars on my beat. And I know faces that don't belong, which may arouse a little suspicion, or I know enough people to let me know who doesn't belong if I haven't seen them that day or that week.
Are there
so
any?
You do know your beat. I know everyone. I could probably say everyone that works on my beat. I know everyone that eats on my beat. All the time, I guess. When I go into a bar or restaurant, in a sense, you're holding a community meeting right there. People never tire of asking you questions. I try never to tire of answering those questions, but all the time you're relating with the community. You're helping solve their problems. I carry a phone book with different government agencies. If it doesn't help for them, I try to call. If I have any pressure to put on someone, and then I have an official that if my pressure doesn't work, then maybe his will. And then eventually it goes up the line. It has to reach as far as the captain and the chief of our district on certain problems.
How big is the beat? In, I guess, city blocks would be a measure.
About 12.
All right.
Bruce, I'd like to just take a minute to explain what Interpol is so people don't get the wrong idea on this.
Okay, quickly. International Police Force?
it's not an international police force. It's located in St. Cloud, right outside of Paris. It's staffed by member countries, and it's to assist each member country in cases. So we have federal agents from the Secret Service assigned from here to operate the Central Bureau and offices throughout the country. But that's only to assist in existing cases on international crime, and that's it.
And a method of exchange of information, essentially.
That's correct.
All right, back to community policing, we hope. Cherry Hill, New Jersey.
Yeah, I just would like to know what happened to law and order in our major cities in this country. You know, it seems like everybody's complaining, that's all you hear is murdering, crimes, all kind of crazy crimes. I'd just like to know what's going on in this country.
Well, it's broad.
It's very broad.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, community empowerment is going to get you back to law and order. It's going to take a long time, a lot of cooperation.
The question suggests that something went wrong. Do you see it that way?
I don't think I would care to speculate on that far.
Don Cahill?
Bruce, I'd like to say that America started off violently, and it just continued the march is actually what happened. It's getting settled down now, and we're learning a lot from our neighbors to the north, our neighbors in Europe, and we're putting them to effect here.
John Eck?
If I had any glimmer of an idea of what the causes of crime in the United States are, and any hope for changing it, I could become extraordinarily rich, and you people would be some of the first to know.
Julie in California. Go ahead, please.
Folks, well, in San Diego, we have what you call the Neighborhood Watch, and we have it in La Mesa. We have it with the Sheriff's Department in the county, and in each case, the police department comes out and works with the community and talks about all the things that need to be done to make your house safe. And in those areas in which that has happened, it's been very effective. And my only thing I need to tell you people is that when people in their own community want to get involved and not look the other way, they will be very effective. And that's what I see. And what I think what the police department needs to do is to do what this lady, Miss Hunt, is doing, is get out and in the community and get to know the people and establish those relationships. And I think that'll make a big difference. I'm living up here in Julian, California, which is about maybe 60 miles to the northeast of San Diego, and we have it up here, and we don't have no problem. It's rural. It's a rural community. But we look out for each other, and we can't keep saying, let the police do it, let the police do it. We have to do something for ourselves. And, that's all I need to say.
All right. Thank you, Julie in California. Donald Cahill, is it as simple as that?
I think he puts it very well because that's where you start. If you start working with your neighborhood watches and start letting them be your eyes, letting them be your ears, exchanging information with them, that's going to be a very good start. And then, of course, you have to progress from there. You can't just stop there. You have to keep going.
Rita Hunt, you can work only so many hours a day. Is there somebody else on the beat who takes it over during the nighttime hours or during the times you're not there?
Yes.
So there's 24-hour coverage?
There is 16-hour coverage of a foot person, but there is a scout car. My beat is only a small part of the scout car beat's area, but it's a pretty main strip. The bars and all stay open till 2 and 3 in the morning, so he is very visible.
But the personalized contact that you provide is mostly during the daytime and the early evening?
Yes.
Okay. John Eck, anything to add?
Well, I think the caller raised a very interesting point. Actually, if you look at any police agency, and you have to assume that about only 40 to 50% of the sworn force is going to be officers who are on the street, And then if you start dividing that in terms of numbers of officers out there at any given time of day because of various shift schedules, it turns out to be an incredibly small number. The extent that any community is reasonably safe, it has little to do with the police. It is due to the citizens' actions themselves. The unfortunate part about it is that the communities which need community organizing the most are the areas which are least likely to be organized, and in which an incredible amount of energy is going to have to go in, not only by the police but by the public, and will take an incredibly long period of time. Neighborhood Watch and various other community organizing are extraordinarily important, but they don't work well in all places.
Elkton, Maryland, go ahead.
I have a question. I was wondering, community policing is effective basically for crime deterrent, but you always have the element that just don't care who's there. Wouldn't it be more successful if first they really took an overview of a community, found out its total problems, then staffed a building in that community with, say, a social service specialist, a nurse, or something, the total problem in that building, and police in that building, then people coming on a daily basis in and out would get to know these policemen as a helping hand and be more inclined to go to them with problems because they see them in a total helping package as opposed to just patrolling and as a friend. Because in today's world, the crime element, who really looks at them as friends? They look at against captor.
All right, Rita Hunt.
Well, it seems like to me the caller just basically summed up community empowerment as I see it. I don't feel the people in the community look at me as their enemy. I believe that I honestly work hand in hand with them. There are more steps to go, and like Mr. Eck said, it's going to take a long time, and it's different agencies are going to have to bring about change. The police department, the D.C. government, maybe as far as the federal government, the judicial system, all of it. It's going to take a long time.
Donald Cahill?
Well, strangely enough, as the caller was talking, it reminded me the fact that Mr. Goldstein, when he put together his 12 steps for building a problem-oriented police agency, the first step was to focus on the concerns of the public. And once they're focused, build on that.
Which is the basis of community policing.
That's correct, sir.
Athens, Georgia, go ahead.
Bruce, I'd like to ask a couple of questions. Some things I've seen disappear from police force, and maybe Mr. Cahill could respond to it. What about the dog that policemen used to have as a companion that walked the post with him? And in the event that to apprehend a criminal who is running, he wouldn't have to fire a shot at him. The dog could apprehend him. Now, in a nearby city, not too long ago, a police officer was killed because he pursued a victim into a wooded area, and the man hid behind a bush and killed him when he came by. Restrained him, took his own gun, and killed him. And also, the stakeout of places that are repeatedly in the perimeter of a town that are repeatedly robbed. What's happened to those? Used to use this repeatedly, but now all of a sudden it's disappeared. It's as if it's some unsportsmanlike or something of that nature.
All right, sir, thank you. Dogs and stakeouts, are they gone?
No, sir, they're not. Canines are used on a daily basis by every police department that I'm aware of. They're not only used, of course, in stakeouts, they're used in narcotic cases. They're used in officer-friendly programs. Canines are now, always have been, a very essential part of our police work, and they're included in community policing.
Officer Hunt, do you have a dog?
No, I've been bit by 3 on this job, so I do not have a dog.
All right, do you think you're disadvantaged by not having a dog?
No, I really believe my best advantage is my radio and also the people in the community. I feel that I have a definite backup with the people in the community that I work in.
How do kids react to you as you walk down the street?
They call me officer friendly.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Officer friendly? Because you're a contrast between the other officers they might meet? or just because you're friendly?
Probably the one that went to their school
Mm-hmm.
on police day or something.
I see. John Eck, anything to add?
I think having talked to a large number of officers, there's a large number of officers who do not like dogs in their squad car. After several days, the squad car becomes a bit smelly. So I think there's sort of a limited use to dogs, and I've seen them used quite a bit and quite effectively, but they're not everybody's best friend.
Fallbrook, California. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was quite disturbed or interested anyhow about Mr. Cahill's comments on the need to adopt Canadian and European type restraints and